were able to get a lot of things done to move the state red. And so I'm very proud of some of the things we've been able to accomplish. I'd love to talk about those if you're interested. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry.
Oh.
I was solving a technical issue, so I think I got the sound working again for when you try to tie all this stuff together, the live stream, and be on the radio and so on and so forth. So with that said, now I can focus on our conversation. I apologize to you. Trying to juggle balls. I often, when Jonathan and Ryan together, he picks up the load in terms of keeping the conversation going, and then I focus on some of the background technical stuff and then interject things as I need to or want to. But with that said, the treasurer's job. Talk to us about, because many of us look at the state spending and we have issues with the government, overspending and doing all that kind of stuff. But the treasurer doesn't really get involved with that. It's more of a functional role, making sure things are done properly, procedurally correct. Is that true?
That is through the General Assembly. They always start with the governor and like the big operating budget, then it goes to the House and to the Senate. I personally am a staunch fiscal conservative and have just in this last operating budget, I submitted over $500 million worth of spending cuts. Some of which were taken, but it was important to over time. I mean, we originally were, when I took office, we were over 7% income tax and 9 brackets, which is incredibly progressive, and I use that in the bad sense of the word. And now we are down to one bracket. We have a flat tax of 2.75%, which is great. The progressive tax is bad for several reasons, but one of which is it causes a marriage penalty. And I don't know if people realize that, but like if you have a man and a woman, and by the way, marriage is a man and a woman, to be clear. So if they both earn so much money, and then when they get married.
Christina, I'm sorry for being rude. We're getting ready to come into a break. I want to continue this conversation, so put a bookmark in what you were saying, so when we come out the other side of the break, we can continue that conversation. And for the listening audience, we're going to continue a sidebar conversation in our stream channels, Rumble, YouTube, and Facebook. But we'll go into a station break, allow the station to make some money, and we'll see you on the other side.
Hey, Skip.
So we'll continue.
I'll be right back.
All right, go ahead. All right. Well, I'm listening to the as Christine is taking a break. I'm going to talk to the Rumble, Facebook, YouTube crowd that's out there. Sorry for the sound problem this morning, and everything might be a little choppy yet online. I'm working on a technical problem I have with the studio setup that I have. And so I hope to get that resolved within a day or so, hopefully today. Although I've got an event that we need to go to. There's going to be a picture taking. All the county commissioners and other elected officials are going to go out and get their beautiful faces, taking a picture in front of the new courthouse today around 11 o'clock. And so it's going to be an opportunity for them to have a little FaceTime. And so I'm going to go on and get some pictures for the Voice of Geauga newspaper and as a news event, and we'll see how that goes. So you might want to go out there and join them.
30 seconds.
So Christine is back, and so streaming side, and as I said,
it's 10 seconds.
We have a little bit of a
we were talking about the marriage penalties.
So, okay, welcome back to Voice of Geauga. You're listening to Skip Claypool, Voice of Geauga. Skip Claypool and Christina Rogener is our guest today. If you want to take part in the program, you can call us at 440-946-9468. And if you're on Rumble or YouTube or Facebook, you can, of course, ask questions of Christina by, I'm watching the chat window, so you can always throw a chat at us. And I actually have a chat coming from Sharon. It says, "Is the treasurer responsible for Ohio's checkbook, and does everyone participate in it?" So, are you familiar with the Ohio checkbook program?
Yes, I am. In fact, when I was a freshman in the House, this is back when Josh Mandel was its state treasurer, we voted to put Ohio's checkbook online. Uh, so what? So basically, any money that the state spends is transparent. You can find it, and it is managed by the state treasurer's office. Uh, I am a supporter of expanding that. And right now there is legislation in the House that's percolating. I don't recall the number. It might be 419, but don't quote me on that. I'd have to look it up. But that would expand that online checkbook to schools and municipalities. And so I'm certainly very supportive of that in the spirit of transparency. And again, at the end of the day, that's all taxpayer dollars, whether it goes to the state, to the schools, municipalities, counties, for that matter, the federal government too. I mean, it's all your money, and you deserve to know how it's being spent. So it's a great thing. I'm proud of the fact that we have the state checkbook online, and I am supportive of expanding that to schools and municipalities as well.
Yeah, there's it's interesting because we've got a president or a governor candidate, Vivek Ramaswamy, who wants to do away with income tax, and which, by the way, didn't exist until the 1970s. When I went into the service, they created the first in Ohio income tax, with under the guise that it was going to keep businesses in Ohio. That's the same excuse they continue to use down at the state legislators, for anything change they want to make. And our budgets have ballooned. And so, and recently we've had this little crisis with our property tax, which has created some consternation. So the treasurer is kind of sitting on the side watching all of that. I don't know how much influence the treasurer has on the influencing as a state senator and soon to be or running for state treasurer. Hopefully you'll win. What is your perspective on all that tax?
No matter, and limited government. Uh, and I think I mentioned before the break that submit, amendments in terms of ways we can cut spending. I didn't even support the stadium, for example. I mean, that was something recently that the state decided they wanted to spend money on, and it was something that I did not support. I voted for an amendment to strip that out of the budget. Unfortunately, it was not accepted. But but uh, but I was happy to cast my vote opposing that. So to answer your question, I believe in limited government, lower taxes. I've been consistent in terms of advocating for that. Back when I first took office, we got rid of the estate tax in Ohio, so that's eliminated entirely. So that was also a win for working Ohioans. Property taxes have ballooned. Um, but that is largely for there's two. I mean, a lot of these they vote for levies and then wonder why the taxes are so high. So that's at play as well. There is a ballot measure or initiative underway. People are collecting signatures to eliminate the property tax, and so that very well could go to the ballot, and that could bring that down substantially.
Well, it certainly will change things. It's not going to change the requirement in terms of expense. So, police departments, fire departments, libraries, whatever, will still have to be paid for. It'll just be paid for in a different way. And from my perspective, in a much better way, much cleaner, much less complicated property tax system is extremely complicated. You got inside millage, you got outside millage, you got levies at different timing. You have the 20 mil floor. You have all these very complicated provisions that are hard to track. It cost the state of Ohio about $800 million. Question from one of our Rumble members, and it's also a question that I have, and that is, does the treasurer have an opportunity in whatever the job is to identify and eliminate fraud?
No, that the treasurer, obviously within their own department, yes, but fraud and waste, that's largely the auditor's role. Um, so that's definitely what the auditor's supposed to do. For example, I got word or some research from LexisNexis. I was working with Representative Mike Davila. He brought this to me, indicating that there was a fair amount of fraud, waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid. No surprise to the listeners, but specifically, this was in the age, blind, and disabled category, and specifically within that, the study showed that there were people that had more assets, like they were wealthier than would be allowed, and they were still receiving Medicaid. In fact, there were several millionaires that were into the budget to have the auditor. And again, it's the auditor, not the treasurer, but we have the auditor auditing age, blind, and disabled specific with a B.
It's interesting you bring that up because Geauga County had an issue a few years ago with our auditor. Well, actually, the CIO, the chief computer guy, who was stealing money. And so I was a commissioner then, and so we identified the fact there was a problem, there was some fraud going on, and so it ended up that our auditor got dinged by that. He just wasn't watching things. He wasn't involved with the fraud itself per se, but he just was not watching the store. And so he was removed from office.
Did the state auditor get involved?
The state auditor did ultimately get involved. But the question that I had for the state auditor is, how come you didn't see this when you're doing audits? And the response was that we don't audit we'll ding them if they don't, and we won't ding them if they don't. So unless you do a performance audit or a forensic audit of some kind, then they're not actually watching for fraud. And so that's always been an issue for me, because the auditor, I think, should be looking for fraud issues, but apparently don't as a routine part of their audits. And so I don't know why that is, and maybe the state legislature should be looking at making a change there from a law perspective. But back on the treasurer, you see a lot of things. You're going to see the checkbook, you're going to see the cash flow, I'm assuming, and so on and so forth. So you have the opportunity to identify to the auditor things to look at. Is that correct?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, in fact, the treasurer, the treasurer doesn't operate in a silo, right? And this is why I think I mentioned earlier too that it's important that they have good working relationships with the leaders, the rest of the leaders in Columbus, because if there's any opportunities for saving money or want to influence policy, you can pick up the phone and call my friends in the House and the Senate, the Speaker and the Senate President, and even the governor. So while you don't actually have a vote as a treasurer, so I cannot vote on future budgets as a treasurer, I have a conservative voice to bear.
Well, that's fantastic. So what are some of the issues? What are some of the things you like to change? Is the treasurer's office perfect, and are you going to do a slip in there and watch things?
Yeah. So there's some things I would like to change. One, here's something interesting, like unclaimed funds. Unclaimed funds is someone has like a bank deposit or utility deposit or something, and they don't claim it, they don't collect it. In all other states, this unclaimed funds pot of money, and by the way, in Ohio, it's $4.8 billion. That's managed in the treasurer's office. In Ohio's the only state that I'm aware of that has it in the Department of Commerce, and it's been sitting there from the Department of Commerce over to the treasurer's office. And again, that legislation's in the House. And so as the next state treasurer, I would love to work very actively in terms of reuniting people with their money. So be able to say, look, reach out to say, hey, Skip Claypool, I think you might have $500 in the unclaimed funds. Why don't you look into it? And then make the process easier for people to get their money back. Because I have heard from several people that it is difficult, to say the least, right now in Ohio, even if you identify that you have money to claim it. So that is. Go ahead.
So we're coming up on another break. So again, put a bookmark in that, and We will continue this conversation on the other side of the break, and I've got a couple more questions for Christina because we'll be coming up on, well, we've got 2 more breaks. So,
Cool. All right, sounds good. Meantime,
or you have to stop talking until Thomas tells us mics are off. And then when he gives us the 5 second or 10 second delay advertisements that they're doing at the station break. So, but now we're talking to our Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube audience. And again, I apologize for the intermittent or the goofiness that may be going on. I will solve that problem. I'm going to take my computer over to continue our conversation offline. This is our opportunity to talk to our online uh, folks to talk about things that
right.
That are not going out over the radio air. Now, people, just for FYI, people can always come back and listen to the entire program online, so they can replay the program. So we don't want to say anything that we don't want to publish.
We're getting up and walking out during the last 2-minute break. I thought we were entirely off.
Yeah, no, that's all right. It happens. The online crowd are very, very flexible and
hopefully forgiving.
Very forgiving and a good crowd. They ask good questions. Engaged.
They're informed. That's great.
They get up in the morning. They're very dedicated, and they listen to the program. And I got an email the other day from somebody defending the Benedict Arnold, and so they gave a whole
bills and sponsored and things that we've accomplished in the last, the terms that I've been in the legislature. I mean, we occupational licensure, we've cut regulations. I've got biological males out of girls' sports. I mean, there's all kinds of excitement.
So you'll be leaving all that behind, though, as you go into the treasurer's office. So
yeah.
One of the things that I want to ask you is how you stack up against your opponent. There's voters need to have a reason to vote for you versus somebody else.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask you that question. Why is it that people should vote for you and not your opponent? And I'm not going to give him free. So I'm just looking at our Rumble channel, which is the most active we have out there, and see if there was any more questions. Everybody must be pretty satisfied with you, because I'm not seeing any questions. There are people who are still upset about the property tax, and
30 seconds.
I'm very much on the side of eliminating property.
That would be fine.
So, and as an
10
example,
10 seconds, silence, please. 10 seconds, silence, please.
Senator Christina Rogner, and Christina lives in the Hudson area, I believe, and represents, I don't know, even
in southern Geauga.
Ah, okay, good. So you have the Bainbridge area from a
Yes.
state senate standpoint, and now Steve Demetrio is running for that particular area, right? For state senate,
That's correct.
Steve Demetrio.
That's correct, and he's unopposed in the primary.
Yeah,
and he's a current state representative, so yeah, he's running for my Senate seat.
That's outstanding. Steve's a great guy. I like new, a better person into our, not a better person necessarily, but a good person into the treasurer's office. So in the break, we were talking about a few things. One of which was I told you I was going to ask you the question: how do you stack up against your opponent? And why is it that voters should vote for you versus somebody else? Is there a Democrat opponent? We're in a Republican primary, so are you going to have a Democrat opponent once you get through the primary? And then how is it that, what are your key strengths, and why is it that people should vote for you?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So I'll focus on the primary first, then we can talk about the general. But yeah, I do have a primary opponent. And in terms of why people should vote for me, there's lots of reasons. First and foremost, I am the Christian conservative in the race. I also in that area in banking and in corporate finance as well. I have relationships in Columbus. In fact, the Senate president, every single member of leadership, a supermajority of my colleagues in both the House and Senate. And that's important because I've never been censured by the party. And again, Buckeye Firearms, Greater Toledo Right to Life, Right to Life Action Coalition of Ohio, Ohio Value Voters, and ABC, and many others. When the counties have compared us side by side, endorsements thus far from all corners of the state. Um, One of the most remarkable county endorsements is Washington County. That was represented by my opponent. This county was in his House district for 8 years. 8 years he represented them, and they voted 30. But also, I guess one last one I want to mention is I have not been um, anywhere close to any of the like the House Bill 6 scandal, for example. So it's very important that the state treasurer remain, above reproach and of your listeners.
Yeah, I find it interesting that you should bring up why this would even be a metric. I don't know that you haven't been censured. State legislators, both on the House side and the Senate side, wouldn't be censured. So it seems like an interesting metric. Hopefully, there's not a lot of censoring.
Republicans that were censured for betraying the majority, the conservative majority. These 22 made a deal with the Democrats, and every single Democrat in the House and these 22 Republicans voted. 22 were censured.
Yeah, they're referred to as the Blue 22, as you and I were talking this morning. You brought me about them. So.
That's right. Yeah.
And so those of us who are voting for people, it's really important that we get to know who the candidates are. I can't be amazed at that, although I have to admit the state Supreme Court justices I'm a little vague on. Sometimes I have to go out and do my own homework. You're on this morning, and we had some conversation, but you have a very good reputation down in Columbus. And everybody that I talk to thinks highly of you. And so that's a big endorsement to me. I've heard positive things. Matt Lynch, who used to be our state representative, said hi. Now he's our appeals court justice, although he can't make any.
We're part of the conservative caucus when he was in the House, and he is a true patriot, a great man.
He is, and we have a number of people, and that they should be recognized. The Blue 22 should be. People should be reconsidering who they're electing. Let's just say it that way. I wanted to say they should be primaried, but if we want a conservative legislature, and some of the things that are happening down the state legislature, I question, because we elect people because we want a conservative state in the state of Ohio. That's the majority. I know the Democrats are in there and they're fighting. The majority of people in Ohio are conservative, generally speaking, and particularly financially conservative. And yet we see a lot of decisions that aren't going in that direction, and we sometimes get very frustrated. We elect people who make promises to us, and then they don't follow through. And thank God we are, because he, when he makes a promise, he sticks to the promise and he delivers. And
he sure does. God bless him.
But God bless him. At least he told us who he was. He told us what he was going to do, and now he's doing it. I wish more legislators would do that. I wish our senators would do that. I wish our congressmen would do that. Our congressmen oftentimes run on one thing and then do something else, and they kind of betray you a little bit. But you're not one of those people. I know that.
No. In fact, Skip, I'd love to take a second and talk about President Trump is doing a fantastic job. I could not be more excited about how he's, closed 22 right now, which it's passed the Senate, it's in the House, which would support President Trump's effort with respect to ICE. The bill says that if someone is here in this country illegally, they are not privileged from arrest anywhere in Ohio. So we've got that going on. But if I could take a second and talk a little bit about, some of the great work that we have done in the Senate and the House. For example, when Amy Acton was locking down the state for COVID, I introduced Senate Bill 311 to open the state back up. Orders and all that. So unfortunately, that bill was passed the Senate, passed the House, was vetoed. We came back, did it again, to Senate Bill 22. All these statewide mandates lift. And so that we're never going to bow a knee to Anthony Fauci knockoff again. I chaired general government in the Senate. I helped expedite House Bill 68 through, which gets biological males out of girls' sports and prohibits transgender surgeries. I chaired higher education in the Senate. We got DEI out of higher ed in the state of Ohio. this GA to income taxes. The property tax is still an issue, but again, keep in mind people keep voting for these levies and then turn around bills and for the services that we expect than property taxes.
Christina, Christine, I'm sorry again. We're talking about doing an hour program, but it goes by so very fast. But we will continue this on the other side of the break.
Okay, I look forward to it.
All right, and we had a question, or actually a response, that your opponent has been censured. So I want to make sure that I mention that when we come out on the other side of the break, and the Rumble crowd is seeing that. The Facebook crowd, there was actually a comment made about, and we already covered this, I think, that you represent part of Geauga County also. But
that's right. I represent this.
And somebody made a comment on Facebook actually that it's really hard to get money out of the unclaimed funds, and this person had tried actually to do that.
Yeah.
So.
And I that's why I said what I did, and I agree with whoever that is. I've heard that comment several times, and it shouldn't be that difficult. Obviously, you need to have some checks in place to make sure that there's no fraud, but it shouldn't be that difficult for people to get their own money back.
So I don't know if
as an ex-treasurer, I'm going to.
You've got a little time yet in the state senate, even if you go through this, succeed through this primary. And so I'm going to plant a seed with you. I don't know if you've been watching the news recently, but Cleveland is touting the fact that they're growing their immigration population, or their immigrant population. It's undocumented immigrants in many cases. And they have an organization, Immigration Village or something like that, in downtown Cleveland. And so they're right now, as a sanctuary city, growing that immigration, or the immigrant population. And I think maybe that's an area to start looking at, some fraud and stuff going on.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
So, I mean, we talk about all this, but then you go to the big cities, Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland,
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Toledo, and you're going to see issues with some of the same issues Minneapolis and Los Angeles have.
10 seconds, 10 seconds.
Okay, welcome back. You're listening to The Voice of Geauga with Skip Claypool, and today we have Senator Christina Rogner, who is running. She's a candidate for the state treasurer's office, and accomplished some good things in there. Somebody mentioned in the break, there's for those of you not participating in Rumble, Facebook, or YouTube, we have conversations in the break on various topics. But one of the comments made by one of our guests in Rumble was that her opponent was actually censored. And so, which is, if you look at the scorecard for various candidates, being censored is something you would want to look at very carefully, as something that might be a ding. I guess it depends on who's doing the censoring. President Trump was impeached twice. But considering the conditions, I think we might want to weigh that differently. But currently our conservative legislature chose to censure her opponent, and I think that's because he was leading the Blue 22, if I have that correct. And so
that's right. Well, it was the ORP, the State Central Committee, that censored. Yeah, that's why he was holding the gavel.
That throws a real wrinkle in, making positive change in Ohio, and making, doging, and making sure that we've got fiscally responsible legislature. I mean, I looked at the last bill, and I got to tell you, Christina, I was very disturbed when I looked at what do they call that big ball of funding that gets put together?
You mean the general operating budget?
Well, no, there was something to do stupid things like read legislation and so forth. And
you're a glutton for punishment.
I know, I do that. I read the Ohio Revised Code, and it's, I don't know, that's how I fill some of my spare time. And so I looked at that and saying, "Jiminy Christmas, are you kidding me? Come on, people." In business, we had to cut. I mean, if we were going to spend money to do something, we had to find the money by taking it from someplace else. And we would regularly, our CEO, CIO, whatever, would come down and say, okay, we're cutting across the board 10% or 20%. And that's just to get everybody making sure that we're being effective and efficient. And they know that there's going to be 10% waste because it just happens through natural human activity. And so, but government never does that. It's always growing, 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 and we never cut. We never get rid of programs. We never take a
Whoa,
look
whoa,
at.
whoa, 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 whoa.
So,
So when I was originally on Hudson City Council,
sure.
and we did cut 10% out of our Hudson Leave department. We would say, do you really need to hire someone else, or can you reorganize your work, hire someone part time instead of a full time job? And we cut 10% out of our operating budget.
Well, once you move to Geauga County, because our auditor's ADP budget just went up 32%.
Oh no.
And yeah, it was a matter of hiring people, maybe more people than they needs, and giving them maybe bigger raises than they need. And so I don't know we have to look under the covers on that one. But if you look at the budgets in the Geauga County Commissioner's office, they're going. We need to move you around to where you can, serve the best interest of the people of Ohio. But you are running for. Are you going to have a Democrat opponent?
Yes, there is a Democrat opponent. He is a city council.
Hmm.
And I don't believe he has a primary, so we haven't heard much from him yet. But that's the opponent.
Yeah, we've not heard anything about him up here in this part of the country, so I'm guessing he doesn't know how to run a statewide race. So,
the treasurer isn't, as you mentioned, it's not on the top of the ticket. You have governor, you have U.S. senator. Those are going to be the races. I think that President Trump will not be on the ballot, but we're going to need him to get people to get excited and come doing great things. So we need people to come out and not stay home.
Well, and I think you're going to see with Vivek out there, this is going to be an asks. What separated us by 6 feet or more is going to be running against Vivek Ramaswamy, who has a very
yes.
number of candidates in Ohio, plus the soon-to-be governor.
Vivek is very conservative. He wants to cut spending. He wants to get our taxes down. I mean, he helped found government, which will be very helpful.
Yeah, the only issue that I have with Vivek is he's big into regionalization, and I hate regionalization. That undermines our basic form of government. When you combine a whole bunch of districts, like there's some talk from the property tax side on combining schools in one district. Well, if you got one bad superintendent, you've just now messed up everything. And so we have 14 townships in the state in Geauga County, so that we can separate government and keep it under control in these little local pockets. If we had one, using the idea of regional townships, then everybody would be combined, and you get one set of trustees that are bad, and you're screwed. And so I don't like the whole idea of regionalism.
But Skip, and I agree with that. But if you want to get costs down, if we want to have lower taxes, right now the majority of property taxes goes to fund those schools and goes to fund those superintendents in each school and the fiscal officer in each school and however many counselors they have in each school. I mean, so it's a balance.
Yeah, I came out of the corporate world, in which case we had a lot of corporate entities that decided that regionalizing accounting, for example, was going to save money. And in practicality, never did. Because what happens when you regionalize is you add layers at the top level to make up for the fact that you don't have these organizations spread out across the country. So seldom does it really deliver the savings that you think it's going to. And from an overall government perspective, unfortunately, we'd love to have you back. And we can continue this conversation possibly about regionalism, but many of us, I'm included in this camp, hope you succeed. And if there's anything that people can do to help you, then we ask that you reach out to them. Rogner.com, and you'll see her website and how you can get engaged and help her. And with that said, we're at the end of the program. Thank you for listening.